Hello.
Hi, beautiful.
How you doing,
Can you hear me?
gorgeous?
Oh, there you
Yes.
are. I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Yeah, how you doing?
How are you? I love your glasses.
Oh, thank you. I'm good. I'm really good. How you?
I've been doing well. I've been keeping busy. Still in New York.
Oh, what?
Mm-hmm.
You're still in New York?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
That's sad that
Yeah, I'm leaving in next month.
we're getting doubles.
I love her lipstick.
Hey, I'm hearing double, so I don't want to hear double.
Oh, you're
Let's
hearing like a
see.
feedback?
Uh-huh.
Turn off the sound.
Let's see. Okay, somebody's telling me help. Oh, I see that. Good.
How's this?
That's good.
Maybe it's because I had the fan on. Uh,
Um, okay, let's see. Can you hear me? Okay.
mm-hmm.
Okay, good, good.
Can't hear you anymore.
It's because I'm feeding into YouTube. I turned it off now. We're good. Okay. All right, we're gonna get started and let everybody just fall in as they come in. Okay, so welcome to In Company of My Sisters. I am so excited today because there's this. Oh, Paula's here. Hey, Dr. Paula. I'm so excited today to have this conversation because I've been people have been asking me about it. So I wanted to talk. I don't call it what some call it, but I call it strategic singlehood. So I want us to talk about it. I know Dr. Paula has talked about it through her life, but I want to talk about the pros of it, and I want to talk about the cons of it. And I think we can have a healthy conversation with all different age groups, if that's possible. So we are streaming live to YouTube. So this will be available today. It will be available on YouTube. So I want to give space to my guests today, Aretha Taylor and Dr. Paula Perez. So take it away, introduce yourself, and we can get started in the conversation.
Hi, hello, Dr. Paula Perez. How are you? My name is Aretha Taylor. I am the CEO, founder, and chair of New Beginnings Outreach Program for Women located in New York. I am also a life empowerment speaker for women, men, and young people. I also much involved with community outreach work in the Caribbean islands, including Jamaica, where I live part-time of the year.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Do you hear my fan? Am I good? Excellent.
I don't hear a fan.
My name is Dr. Paula C. Perez. I'm an author, educator. I'm a leader, a speaker. I work with young people. I'm a youth pastor at our church. I'm also a pastor's wife. and just have a passion for relationships. I really feel that the family is the foundation of everything. So if I can help relationships before they get married and when they get married, our families will be in a better situation.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to be here tonight.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so let's get started on the conversation, the strategic singlehood. And I want to talk about defying the stereotypes, for the single life. I know for me, I am single at the moment. I am in my 50s, and it is a challenge. And I hear this not only for the 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. So we want to talk about that and share your experiences, because I believe the word is strategic, and I know for myself, and I'll give you an example. I had some really bad relationships throughout the years, and when I started coming into myself and really wanting to have, like Dr. Paula said, a really good relationship, I need to get myself correct first, because I believe I was drawing what I wasn't, and the gap between my little child and myself, my adult self. So I believe that I was drawing that. So I took some time to really work on myself and my inner self, not disregarding if a man walks up to me, and says, hey, beautiful or something, not disregarding that, but being very strategic in getting myself together to offer what I was looking for. So I had to come to the table with what I was looking for. For you, Dr. Paulo, I know that we talked about it before. You talked about it on your journey to marriage. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, you talk about being strategic, and for me, that is so key. I had the blessing of growing up in a household that had a firm foundation on biblical principles. I'm a pastor's kid, and my parents, I appreciate the way that they brought us up, because they spoke often about sex in our house. So one of the ways that I approached my singleness strategically is at a very early age, at the age of 16, I made up my mind that I was not going to have sex until I got married. And that was a boundary that I felt I needed to put into place for several reasons. Number one, if I call myself a Christ follower, I just believe that's one of the principles in his word. The marriage bed is not to be defiled. So I wanted to make that commitment. And I took it so seriously, I literally signed a contract with my dad saying not only would I not have sex, but he would be a part of finding my purpose partner. So if he didn't approve of the guy, I was willing to say, okay, we're not going to go there. And those boundaries that I put in my life, very strategic, and I'm not going to say it was easy, but it helped me to have some guardrails that were able to protect me. So as a result of the standard that I had, the area of sex was just non-negotiable. And if I ever felt like a guy was pressuring me, to me, that was red flags, because it said he was more concerned about his lust for the moment than he was on my life choices. And I could not be with someone that was like that. Now, did I put myself in situations where the Lord had to get me out? Yes, I did. So naive.
Yeah, that's important to say. That's important. Yes, that's important.
So naive. But I believe if we are strategic and we include the Lord in our singleness and in our life decision, he will provide a way of escape. And like you said, Edna, I'm a strong believer that any issues we're dealing with as an adult are unresolved childhood issues, things that we haven't, for whatever reason, worked out. Perhaps we've
That's right.
dealt with trauma and we don't even realize, because the brain has a way of protecting us and keeping
Oh
us,
yeah. Oh
so
yeah.
it may
Oh
be a
yeah.
situation where you need to seek professional assistance to uncover the baggage that you are
Yeah.
bringing
Yeah.
into a relationship. But I
Right.
stand behind what you said. It is so important strategically as singles
Yeah.
that we determine, first of all, who are we? We should value
Yeah. That's
ourselves
important. Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
that we should love ourselves
Yeah.
and want to develop every aspect of our life. So in my years of singleness,
That's
that
right.
meant going to school. I pursued education to the highest level. It meant traveling. I went on several trips by myself because I felt
Yep.
I'm worth it. Why am I going to
Yeah.
wait for a
Yeah.
guy to take me to England? I'm going. Why am I going to wait for a guy to take me to Hawaii? I'm going. Why am I going to wait for somebody
Yeah.
to take me to
Yeah.
New Zealand? So I had the privilege of traveling, of developing girlfriends that supported one another. And that was another aspect
Mhm.
of the strategy. If we surround
Yeah.
ourselves with like-minded women, we can support one
Yep.
another in those efforts.
Yeah.
So we would do Bible
Yeah.
studies together. We would do book studies. I remember one book that I read with them was The 5 Love Languages, and helping one another to
Mhm.
know what is it that we need? What is it that we like?
Yeah.
And then let's start practicing on one another. So I can say my girlfriends that
Mhm.
have quality time as their love language, those that need
Yeah.
affirmation. So all of those strategic plays in our life are important and will set
Mhm.
us up
Yeah.
for success.
Yeah. So today we're talking about strategic singlehood of the women. And we're talking about it's really important to know. And I think one key element is knowing who you are. I was living on a dream, and you guys can correct my wrong if I'm wrong, with a white picket fence. I was living on that dream. Now I didn't even know what a white picket fence was. Okay, I really didn't. I was watching television. I was getting these subliminals that this is the way life is supposed to be. It really was. So I didn't have anything to go by that was substantive for me. So that was for everyone else, but it wasn't substantive for me. Like Dr. Perez said, you have to know who you are. Like, what do you want out of the whole thing? What do you want? Um, Aretha, what do you think?
I
My Wi-Fi is wonky. Okay.
Yeah, I so agree with Dr. Perez on everything she just touched on. The difference with her and I is, see, she grew up with a mom and a dad, and she had that foundation, and she had the spiritual foundation. She had a relationship with Christ and with her parents growing up. I grew up in a single home. My mom, she was a believer, but she didn't live the life of it, right? So I think I was maybe in my 30s when I decided
Mhm.
that I came first, right? When it came to
That's good.
relationship,
That's good.
when it came to knowing who
Mhm.
I was, when it came to forming a relationship with myself, because I had already given so much of myself to a previous relationship, as well as my daughter, because I was a mom at a young age, right? So you give so much emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually to others, and then you neglect yourself. So in my 30s now, I had to figure out who's this girl, and what I want
Mhm.
in a relationship. And so I had to work and build on that. And because of that, now I decided not to be involved in a relationship. because Aretha needed to know who Aretha is. And if I was working on that, then I couldn't be in a relationship, because I was also walking around a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, a lot of shame, and a lot of trying to figure out what happened in the past and why did this happen? Why did I da 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 da? And you have to like peel back the layers. So I'm still in my 30s and in my early 40s trying to, because things happen, life happens, right? You go through you're on your journey. So when I was 35, 36, excuse me, now I gave my life to Christ. So it's a whole nother ball game now, a whole nother thing, right? So I maintained my singlehood. And I remember going to my GYN back in those times. And you know, they do your test, the pap smear and whatever else, and they're asking you questions about pregnancy. I'm like, oh no, I don't have to take a pregnancy test. She's like, why? So because I'm celibate. She went, oh. And I said, no. I said, what do you mean? Oh, I said, I'm good. It's a choice and I love it. I love being single. Love the feeling of it because I'm enjoying me. I'm embodying me. I love spending time with me. Dr. Perez talked about traveling. I love to go vacation by myself, do things by myself. I need to get rid of all the excess stuff, the residue, the baggage and all that before I come into a relationship, because I am not a girlfriend. I am a wife and I'm doing it only one time. And so I have to be sure that I am ready mentally, emotionally, spiritually for my husband. I don't want to carry all that other stuff from my childhood past, teenage past, young adult. I don't want to carry that into my marriage because it will end. It will definitely end if so. So I had to make that decision and feel good about it and not be pressured by society, what society thinks or society wants, because so many of us, we go from one relationship next to the next because we don't want to be alone, because we're afraid of being alone for whatever reason. But I think it's one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself is being alone. For sure, being alone, just building you, being mature. And that is why so many times when we do meet someone, it doesn't last because you're still trying to figure stuff out. Then you have to learn this person. You have to know how to deal with that person on a mature level. You have to be able to help and support that person also in what he or she is going through, right? If you're a man, right, and you're searching, you're in search for a relationship, for a partner, you have to know how to relate, not how to relate, but how to understand this individual. You have to learn to communicate with that person and listen to them. And in order to do that, you have to first dissect, cleanse, treat yourself spiritually so in a different way and emotionally so, learning who you are and processing all these other things that you had gone through in your life.
Yeah, I think I think what you said is very powerful. My goodness, it's a lot of it. It's very powerful. So, can you guys hear me well? Am I choppy? No. Okay.
No, you're choppy.
Let me see. Wait. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Sort
now?
of. We can hear you
Lord.
A little better.
A little better?
Yeah.
A little better? Okay. It's because I have two things going on. I have the YouTube thing going on, so I apologize. So I like what you all are saying. So I hear you saying that women in general are looking for, education, travel, employment, and entrepreneurship, financial planning, money management, property ownership, emotional growth and self-discovery, spiritual growth, and community involvement. I hear all of that coming from you all because as you all, we all have different lives. My life was very different. I am from a home that had childhood sexual abuse from the age of 5 to 15. And my mom chose to stay with the individual. So I was in the presence of my perpetrator every day for a long time, till I was about 18. So I didn't know what a healthy relationship really looked like. I think the healthiest relationship I had when I was young was with my Barbie. That was the healthiest one because I could tell her everything and she would listen. Right? It was the healthiest thing. It was really healthy. But I didn't have that. And now working on myself and healing that little child, healing those daddy issues, that good girl syndrome, because that right there, those two things really help you draw. If you're not healing those, they have you draw people that are not good for you, in business, in romantic relationships. They have you draw people that are not for you. So I had to heal those things. Other things I had to heal was really getting to know what I really wanted, because I had no idea. I had what I really wanted. I heard what other people wanted for me. I received what other people kind of invoked on me, but I didn't know what I wanted. I had no idea what I wanted. So I think I started growing when I was 45, and I went to China and I, lived there for a year, and I started growing. And then I realized, hey, I can do all these things and still date someone. Now that's another thing there now. So I thought I knew, maybe you ladies can help me out. I thought I knew what dating was. So a guy comes up to you, he likes you, he takes attention with you, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're into a relationship. That's what I thought dating was, right? But dating is not that, right? It's not that. It is making sure you're going on dates, which is, enjoying extracurricular activities, whether it be bowling, eating out, whatever, and making sure you know this person.
Courtship.
That's right. And if we're not doing that and we're just jumping in, that's how I got burned a lot of times. I just jumped in because was not taught about dating and courting someone and really seeing both sides, seeing the yin and the yang of that person, the good and the bad, learning that and saying, oh, do I want to take this on for years to come, So I think that is a lot of what I have experienced, just getting into the self-improvement. Now, I know that some women have said to me that we talked about alone. I always say solitude, because solitude more or less lets me see myself. Being alone, it's great because when you're aggravated with everybody and you don't want to talk to anybody, that's great too. But when you're in solitude, you're really reflecting and you're really, kind of cleaning things out. It's like cleaning your basement once a year. You're in solitude doing that. So, are there any cons to this? Feelings, and I know this is all emotional. Are there any emotional negatives? That's what I should say to singlehood, or have you heard of any or experienced any?
I think
Anybody can answer.
I think it's all a matter of our perspective.
Okay.
There was a period of time in my life where my focus was not on, number one, making the Lord priority in my life. It was just hooking up with somebody. And because my motivation was not correct, it was more, I didn't want to be left out. In my memoir, I share about an incident when I was literally at my brother's reception, wedding reception.
Mhm.
And someone asked me, when are we going to have some cake? And I remember my reaction being so, like, how dare you ask me that? Like, I can pick the date when I'm getting married. It's a little more complicated than that.
Right.
But that sent me off into a spiral where I was just trying to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding the flags that were coming up, I was pushing through trying to make it happen. I was going to make somebody love me. I was going to make
Wow.
somebody
Yeah.
be in relationship
That's
with me.
Oh,
So I literally got a reputation of just chasing after guys.
wow.
And it got to the point where the Lord, I will never forget it. It was almost as if he was saying to me, am I not enough? I've done all this.
Ooh.
Am I not enough?
Mhm.
I
Ooh,
had
that's good.
the pursuit of getting into a marriage relationship, my God. And I say that because it took priority over everything. I would rearrange
Ooh,
my schedule to try to be in the space where I thought somebody might know. All of the nonsense, all of the nonsense.
Oh, the nonsense. That's it. That's
Yes,
it.
yes, yes. So the Lord really, he got me to the point where he said, Paula, look at what I've done for you. Am I not enough? And it wasn't until I said, not my will, but thine be done. Did I release it and really let the Lord do his thing. And it was amazing. Once I released it, and I have to admit, it took a long time, from 16 probably to the age of 40, maybe 41. That was a hard lesson for me to get. But once I got it, really, really enjoyed my singleness. And then my perspective changed, my focus changed. For me, it was about pouring into others. So I started a not-for-profit agency. I started a preschool. I used to do sleepovers with the young ladies in our church and pour into them. You know, I would do singles groups. I would host women's retreats. I did all of this productive stuff. Once I let go of, I gotta get a man, I gotta get a man. Once I got there, it was almost as if the Lord just rolled back all of the blockage because my will was finally aligned with his. And once that happened, my prayers became more effective. And I remember about a year before I got into the relationship with my husband at a women's retreat, I said to the women, you know what? I feel like I'm going to be married in the year. Wow. And one of my good friends said, oh, there's nobody in sight. But I believe that thing so strongly that I started to prepare. I saved up money. I got in shape. I wore braces as a child and didn't wear my retainer properly. So a gap had formed. I went back to the orthodontist because, you know, right. I did all of that. And then about 7 months later, the Lord sent the person that was to be my husband. And from start to finish, 4 months, I was married.
Yes.
And it's amazing what God can do when we are in sync with him.
When we allow things, when we stop doing what we want and allow things, that's big, because I'm learning that, you know, stressing about things, worrying about things only brings more, you know, and I learned to now just allow, okay, whatever direction God or the universe is moving me, okay, I got to be attentive to that, and I got to allow for that, you know. So I that's beautiful. I love that. That's really good. What do you think, Aretha?
I think everyone is saying very true things at different parts of life, you know. And I had a very similar story to everyone's, actually. It's kind of like a big mix up of everything, start to finish. And there were periods of like me chasing men and needing to have somebody in my life, you know, I come from a Muslim background, so a little bit different. And they were like loose Muslims. They weren't even like real. There's no like foundation. They were like Muslim.
They're everywhere. Listen, every religion has a couple of those. Don't even worry about that.
But those were my parents. So
I didn't mean that.
You don't actually know what kind of foundation it is. So your Barbie was your best friend, and television was actually my best friend. I come from a relatively broken home. You know, we in transplants over here, and West Indian people. So they're, you know, drinkers and violent. They're just crazy people. And but I knew that, you know, I was surrounded by a lot of lovely people outside of my home. And when I was in my home, I was like, well, where can I find those lovely people here? They weren't around, but when I turned on that TV, I found it in, you know, all the shows I grew up with: Growing Pains, Cosby's, Family Ties, Jefferson's. And I was like looking for my parents and my family in those shows. So I just grasped on to even Blossom. Blossom was a good one, right? She had no mom, so she was like learning. And I had a mom, but my mom was like not there because she was working. So
I got it.
Like learning how to just be a woman alone. I had no woman role model. And as a male role model, my dad was really, really just not a good. He was a child. He was like literally, and he still is. He's 70 something. He has the mentality and comprehension and rationality of a 4-year-old. But he was trying to raise 3 kids, but not really raising them. He was just throwing money, whatever he makes, a little bit he makes, and says, here, do something with this, but not taking on a responsibility of raising you. And neither did my mom, because neither one of them, generationally going back, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, as many generations back as possible, we come from a place that there's no good family structure. None in sight. You know, we all came from the same places. We came from the Indian slave trade right into the West Indies. We don't know who's what, where's what, who's our family. We don't know nothing. So you kind of have this impression of like you're trying to develop into a woman, and you don't really know what that is, you know? And you don't have the time to sit down and actually learn it. Not where we were. We were in a struggle of survival. I was in the deep South Bronx in the early and mid 80s. It was horrific. So you're just trying to survive. And if you express too much of your womanhood, you're endangering yourself just by walking down the street. You know, even when you're little, there are the perverts in the cars waiting with the doors open for you. Like, come here, let me show you something. And you're like, no, I don't want to see anything you have. I don't want your candy. I don't want your talk. So I think, you know, from 15 to 29 and like 10 months, I was in relationship after. There was no break. Wow. I think I was single for like a week at the longest time period. And I never understood to take a break. But at that point, I was like, I'm done. I just want to be alone. So I really do understand this aloneness. And then as soon as I was done, I was like, I just finished college. I put myself through college. Let me take a trip, because I love traveling and I never get to travel. I see it. And you know, I've done a couple of it with other people, but I'm on their schedule. And really traveling alone allows you to find yourself, your time, your interests, how you want to spend the precious moments that God did give to you. It's your time to develop yourself and explore. And that was very life-changing. And one thing I've learned that keeps coming back is as soon as you think you found yourself or you know yourself, I think, you know, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, whatever it is, starts giving you these tests to say, are you sure? Are you sure you want to be this new person?
Yep. Yep.
Let's put this here. Remember how much you like the bad boys? Look at this one.
Yes.
Remember how much you like,
Yeah.
you know, going out and having a good time? Look at all these invites you get. And then it's really time for you to say, you know, do I want to live my life going down a different path, or do I want to try and continue down that same road that I knew, but with this new person that I am, which is impossible. It's impossible. The road can't carry that weight. You got to find a new road that has a different weight limit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was dating my now husband. We literally just got married 2 months ago.
Wow.
Thanks.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Not for lack of him trying, because like the first week I met him, he's like, okay, we'll get married, we'll move in. He's like, we're gonna have kids. I was like, oh, okay, let me just go get this IUD in and make sure that that's not.
Nerissa, can you adjust your phone? There you go. We can see you now.
I'm sorry, I got you on a blanket and it keeps moving. And you know, like getting to marriage was a very, very hard thing for me. I saw all the bad things of marriage, trapped and like toxicity and burdened. And even with children, as much as I wanted children, you see like this thing. And right now that's what I'm facing. You know, I'm here. I finally let go and allowed, and I finally got to where I really wanted to be. But I needed this particular person to be here with me. Now that we're here, I'm 42. Do you cross the line and have that family? Do you recreate toxicity? How do you make sure that that doesn't happen? You know,
oh, that's good.
So
Yeah.
that's all the things.
I can relate to Edna.
That's good. I like that. That's really good.
Nerissa. Edna touched on something so profound, and I forgot that her and I have this in common, where our moms stayed with our abuser. My stepdad was sexually abusing me, and I remember telling my mom, well, my sisters, my older sisters who no longer lived at home, I told them first, and they told my mom, and they forced her to put him out. And she put him out for like 2 weeks. 2-3 weeks, and he came back home around Christmas time. I hated Christmas for a long time and didn't understand why, but then it was revealed to me that that was the reason why. And he continued, and he stopped because one of my brothers, my closest brother to me, I told him, and my brother put his hands on him and threatened him, and that's what made it stop.
Same thing.
So that went with me for a very long time. I did not have a positive role model in my life, neither father nor mother, right? So Aretha, that's why it's so important. Again, we go back to being single. No one taught me. I didn't know what a husband is supposed to be like, is supposed to treat me, a good husband, you know? And I remember being angry with God for years because I'm like, where's my husband? I wasn't talking to God for a while. Where's my husband? And this was in my early 40s. I'm like, I'm getting older. Where's this husband? And then one day I heard him say, what if I sent him? Would you still remember me?
Oh, that's good.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So I had to seriously get it together to know that the Lord completes me.
Yeah.
My relationship with him was number one, and he was priority in my life. And I had to build that with him until I felt it, believed it, knew it, and was comfortable with just me and him. And he taught me what a husband is supposed to be. And the husband that I, Aretha, need. And the residue that I spoke about earlier was my mom was very abusive. She was very violent. And I carried that trait. And I was in a relationship from I was 22 to I was 26. So for 4 years, I used to physically abuse my boyfriend. We lived together. I used to beat him, call him names, put him down. I was so wrong, so abusive. And I remember him getting angry and crying because he wanted to hit me back, but he refrained himself, right? And I remember one time he got my mom involved and she was on the phone yelling at me and screaming at me, asking me, where did you get that from? And she's Jamaican, right? She's no longer, right? We're Jamaican. Where did you get that kind of behavior from? Where did you get that from, Arita? I said, what do you mean where I got it from? I got it from you. You taught me that. And she just kept real quiet. That's what I saw her do. She was always attacking her living boyfriend. She was always attacking my brothers, always attacking me, putting her hands on us, calling us names, putting us down, especially my brothers. And my brothers, they dealt with it in a different way. But they became abusive. You know what I mean? So that temperament that I had, God had to help me with that. And I'm now at the age of 50. How old am I? 54. 54. He uses people in your life to show you who you are. And that thing was still there and it was blocking. And I remember getting angry, so angry at this individual. This is like year before last. And I hit something and it just flung it. It almost hit the person. And something just made me stop. And I was like, oh my God, that is still there. And I was embarrassed. I was shamed. I began to cry and I began to ask this person for forgiveness and ask God, help me. And it wasn't just an asking, it was a crying out. I need help with this. I can't take this into no marriage. No, I don't want this. But it was coming from there. It was coming from the childhood. It's coming from learned behavior. Even when my mom was pregnant with me, with my dad, she used to fight my dad. My mom was the aggressor. She was very aggressive. She would cuss out anybody, anytime, anywhere. She did not care who you are. She did not care what you look like. She didn't care what. She will tell you off in a heartbeat. That wasn't me, but I had the temper. I had the temper. And when you said certain things to me, it would trigger that place in me. It would trigger something off. So I had to instill working on that and also working on forgiving me, because it took me a long time to forgive myself for treating that young man the way I did. Thank God we are still friends today. Like my daughter grew up with him. She calls him her father. He walked her down the aisle. He and I are very good friends. And in the year 2020, I called him and apologized to him and asked his forgiveness for the way I treated him, because it affected him. He's been in a relationship since 1995, since we broke up. And he's not married this woman. They have children together. And he hasn't even allowed himself to fall in love with her. So you see the effect this thing has. Right? He said he was driving at the time. He had to pull over and he was like, wait, is this really you? I'm like, what? Yeah. He was like, I had to pull over the car, and he apologized to me as well, you know? And it brought such a healing for me and into my heart, where I'm not afraid, because I think a part of it was also, I was afraid of getting married deep down because I knew that thing was still there. And and even being loyal and faithful to the man, because I had never been faithful in any relationship I was in, even the man that I lived with for 4 years from I was 22. I cheated on him. After him, I cheated on that guy. I was always a cheater. And I was like, nah, I can't do this. I can't be this person. I don't want to be this person. So again, because I knew when I saw these things in me, I had to literally say, Aretha, you need to work on you. You can't be in a relationship and be unhealthy. You're still sick, right? You're still, the sickness is still there, right? You need healing of these illnesses. And that's where I'm at.
Aretha, I appreciate you openly sharing your story because people need to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful. First of all, one of my sayings is Satan is in the secrets.
Right.
Yep.
When we don't uncover, when we don't reveal those inner secrets, he just uses those to play on our mind, to play on our guilt, to play on our
100%.
shame. So first of all, I appreciate you sharing it. And then when you talked about asking for forgiveness, it's not for the other person, it's for us. It's to release us. It's to free us. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I always say that it really is a spiritual thing. God is not as concerned with our comfort as he is our character.
Yes.
He's going to continue to bring people into our life that are going to rub off those rough edges, that are going to uncover and reveal the areas that we have not yielded.
Always.
So I applaud you for sharing that. And I'm just grateful that this platform exists so that people can hear truth. One of my latest book, I talk about boundaries, and boundaries for me is an acronym that I use. And very quickly, believe in God, obey his word, understand his principles, formalize doing things God's way, no wed, no bed. Then I go down through the rest of it. And one of the letters, the I, is increase your impact. You should be able to touch somebody else's life so that they can become better. And by you sharing your story, by you sharing how you are overcoming, you better believe it's going to touch somebody else's life. So again, I applaud you for your transparency in sharing all of that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very good.
I'd like to say the same thing.
Go ahead.
I'd like to say the same thing to Aretha. I think that was unbelievably powerful, especially for me, because I think I noticed when I joined in here, all of our names ended in A, and I was like, "There's some kind of strange connection here." And as I listen to each of you, I see the connection more and more. But Aretha, what you just said, you basically just pulled some pages out of my biography because I went through the same thing. The same thing with the last guy right before my husband. And that's why it took me 6 years, even though the first week we met, he was like, let's get married, let's move it. I was like, no. Because I didn't want to recreate that situation. So I needed to test myself first to see that I am healed, because I literally went through that same thing. I was abusive to this guy, and he was my best friend at the time. I knew him 6 years prior to that also. And the same type of behaviors that I saw my mom, and I tried really hard to not be like her, but it just came out of you.
It happens.
Learning about, narcissistic moms and toxic moms and covert triggers and covert plans that they have for you, and how it really affects you subconsciously. And it comes out of you at these moments where you least expect it. You think you're there and you're like, okay, I'm ready to listen and talk and be open to this person. And all of a sudden they start triggering you, and this explosion comes out of you.
Right.
And it's the same thing with my mom. She was like, where did you learn that? I was like, from you. Like literally from you, Trinidadian lady,
Yeah.
because I know how the Jamaicans are, I know how the Trinidadians are,
Yeah.
they're one and the same people. And
Yeah.
you know, you can't like
true,
showcase this behavior. And then
Right.
you know, as much as we try and put up a block, you're always peeking over there and like, what are they doing? Is that how a woman is? Is that how she's supposed to treat that man?
Right.
But it took some
Yeah.
time. And you know, what's really interesting is that my husband went through the same thing with his mom. He had no father role model really. And he was a very toxic individual as well. When you talk about people coming into your lives to polishing those rough edges, because I was testing myself.
Mhm.
Am I going to explode? Am I going to be this way? And he was doing all the things. He was exploding. And I'm like, do I deserve this? And also it goes back to, am I allowing this to happen because I feel like I deserve it because I did it to somebody else? Is this retribution?
Yeah.
What is this? And then learning
So many
boundaries.
questions. So many
Right?
questions.
Learning
many
boundaries
questions.
and putting it down and saying, if
Correct.
this, like, I accepted it to this point, I accepted my karma, or whatever you want to call it. But at this point, I love you and I love you enough to let you go. Right.
Yeah.
And I love me enough to let you go, no matter the love between us.
Mhm.
And if you go, that's great. But if you're trying to stay, there's some major changes that needs to happen without fail, because if one brick gets knocked down, you got to go.
Mhm.
And
But-
that's an example of self-love. When
Yeah.
you get to the point where you realize your own value,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
then you can demand of others how they should treat you.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that is something more women especially really need to grasp.
Right.
Right.
You do not have to put up with it. I remember, and I talk about this in one of my books, there was a guy that I was in relationship with, and he had never done anything before. But Aretha, I think you said that someone you were with experienced it and observed it,
Mhm.
and they became what they saw in terms of the violence. And I remember visiting with him at his parents' house, and he went to stay at somebody else's house because I was single and I wasn't given any appearance of evil. So he went and stayed at his brother's house, but I was there by myself. And I remember that evening hearing the violence of his parents, not realizing, oh my goodness. And then maybe a month later, I happened to be at his house with my younger brother, helping him move into a new place. And someone called me, and immediately the rage came out of him. And he literally raised his hand as if he was going to hit me. And I lost it in terms of, Negro.
Right. Right.
Touching me. And it was done. It was done. Used to stay in a relationship where that was
Right.
even thought, let alone a reality. That was it that day. And if we can teach our children, our boys and our girls, I'm so sick of people focusing on the girls. Because if we got the guys right,
Yeah.
we taught our boys how to be husbands,
Yep.
we wouldn't have half the problems that we have. So
Yep.
if we can teach them to value themselves, to truly love themselves, then God will show them, and they'll be used to what is good. They'll be used to what feels good. They'll be used
Right.
to what
Mhm.
they deserve.
Right.
Yeah.
So I applaud you all for sharing your stories. It is so important.
Those are
I'm on
beautiful.
the other end of it. My husband was previously married, and his wife was very abusive, very abusive. In fact, it led him to become a person on a board of a shelter, a violence shelter, domestic violence
Right.
shelter. But when we got
Wow.
married, you all talked about the triggers that happen.
Right.
And again, they're still there.
Yeah.
One thing I
Yep.
love is the transforming power of love. First of
Yeah.
all, the Bible says God is love. So I always start with that as my basis. But to see how the continuing, just unapologetic love of someone, how that can transform their lives. And I
Yeah.
Yeah.
appreciate my husband so much because I can see how he has changed. And I can
Yeah.
see how his family, he had children. I have not birthed any, but he had 3 from his first relationship. I can see how that dynamic is changing because we showed them this is what is allowed. You are not allowed to do X, Y, Z, not in this house, because my homes, thank God, they were always a sanctuary for me. And I was
Wow.
determined as a married couple,
Yes.
this would be our safe space.
Yes.
This would be the space where we come home after being beat up by the world.
Right.
We're able to get loved on. We're able to get encouragement. We're able to be healed from the war out there. I certainly did not want a war inside my home. And I thank God because God is able to transform. He is able to renew our
That's
mind.
beautiful.
That's another one of
So
our
we know that it's not the same old stories.
Exactly.
So we know that it's not the same old stories. And in a single life and being in singlehood, that's better than single life. I could tell you one that maybe you all have heard that I've experienced. So when I decided that I was not gonna, date anybody, I was gonna be dating myself, right? I started dating myself, right? Doing things for myself.
Mhm.
People started questioning my sexuality.
Reality.
The more I matured, the more they thought, they kept asking me, why are you single? Like, what's your sexuality? Do you like women? So it was all, once again, I was wronged for doing something right for me. Now I'm wronged again, And it seemed like they would always mock me. It would say to me, because I'm always one, I do try every type of style. I will say that, but I love my hair short. I love my hair short. So they would ask me, well, you're dressing like this. And I was like, what does dressing have to do with it? I just choose, that I'm not, I know what I want. I know what I want to accept in my life. And a fly-by-night isn't it.
Right.
It wasn't it for me. So, it really changed me when I would hear that. And I was like, what am I doing that's so, like thinking that my sexuality is different. No, I'm heterosexual. No. I'm pretty sure of that. Pretty sure. But that's another thing that happens when you choose singlehood. You choose that,
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. We are certainly in a society that gives preferential treatment to married people. Everything
Mhm.
from insurance,
Yeah.
to travel, all of it. Our
Mhm.
world is designed for married people. But
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of solo, single people that
Yeah.
are very satisfied.
Right. Very, and that's where I needed to be, because
Yes.
even in a relationship, I wasn't satisfied. You know, so I had to be satisfied. And that's where I am now in my life. I'm satisfied. And I can truly say, hey, I'm not going to ask if their finances are right. I may check later, but I know my finances are straight. So I'm expecting somebody to come to the table the same way. And like Dr. Paula said, and our guest today, you talked about, and this is what I heard, that you both know that there's traumas that have gone on in both of your lives, but you're willing to love each other through it. That's great. Like, that is what you want, because we all have some traumas going on. We all got that, we got it. But if there's someone that's willing to say, hey, I know you got this going on and I got this going on, let's help each other, that is more than we could ever ask for. And yes, it's gonna work. We need to work. We need to realize and talk to the women and men that it's work. It's not I'm getting up and leaving. No, it's work. It's communication, right?
Love is a decision
That's it.
that you make daily.
That is correct. A
Daily.
decision.
Yes.
Yes. And I always tell my kids that. I said, it's not no feeling. I said, no, it's a decision. It's a choice you make. That's really it. Not absent of anything else, but it's a choice. So yeah, I like that too. So now that we're coming to the end wire, we've talked about everything except for the support systems. A lot of times we all need, and this is a piece that women forget all the time, our support system. We support our children. We support our husbands. We support people at our jobs. We support our sisters and our brothers. I know, because I was doing it. And then I didn't have a support system when I started crying and carrying on. You know, I had nobody. I'm looking around. Who am I supposed to call? Ghostbusters? What? Who am I supposed to call? I had nobody. So it's important. Like I think Dr. Paula said it. Support system. Get the women. That
Like-minded women.
Like-minded.
Yes.
Just because you went to high school with them, don't really mean that they're like-minded.
Come on.
Just because you was in ninth grade with, and 9 years old, and you knew them, they live next door to you, don't mean you're like-minded.
Right.
That doesn't mean the same thing. You have to be around people. And I just had this incident with one of my friends, and I went on vacation, and I'm black, but she was white, and she's been my friend for years, and so I kept hearing words that were coming out of her mouth directed at me, very microaggressive. And I said, okay, maybe it's me, because I am sensitive to those things, maybe. But then it started happening too much. And I was like, wait a minute. So here's one thing that I learned.
Mm-hmm.
If you sit there and you throw the verbal cue and you make the scowl and you don't say anything, those are verbal cues. People don't know. Your support system, your loved ones don't know what that is. Communication. So what did I say to her? I said, hey, listen, we got to go for a walk. And so we went on this walk, and I broke it I was able to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. It was such I'm about to cry now, but it was such a momentous time, because as a support system, even in a relationship such as friendship, we sometimes have to communicate and not throw verbal cues, but be able to tell the truth. Because see, my family came from a bunch of liars. And I was determined when I found out I could lie like this for nothing. I was like, oh, I will be honorable and have integrity, but most of all, tell the truth. And I was able to share how those things made me feel. And here's the beautiful part of it. She came over, I think 2 days later, and she said, I heard everything you said. She didn't say I was sorry, but she said, can I make it better?
Amen.
And that's connecting to people. I said all that sisterhood, your support system should be that good, that you can say, you can be real, and then be able to both grow from it. Not grow away, but grow together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to me, having a support system like that and being able to interchange, communication, ideas, support, inspiration. That's the people you want in your corner, that you can call. Hey, this is what's going on, and maybe not even things are going on, right?
Right.
Can we talk about just that support, your support systems, before we go, because support systems are important for women.
I also talk about accountability partners in my book, Boundaries. That's the accountability partners. And I think you need to surround yourself with, first of all, people that want the best for you.
Yeah.
They don't have any ulterior motives. It's not, what can I get? They just
Right.
love you.
Yeah.
They just want the best for you. So
Mhm.
those are the accountability partners that I lean on. And then you just talk about the importance of truth. That's the E in my boundaries.
Oh,
Embrace
that's good.
truth. Embrace truth. There's so many times when we lie to ourselves.
Oh, girl,
They are
bye.
good
Yes.
accountability partners. They'll call you on that lie.
Yeah. Girl,
They'll
bye.
call you
Yes. We'll
out,
lie quick to
so
ourselves.
we
Yes.
need people that will tell us when our stuff stank
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and then embrace it and just
That's
say,
right.
okay,
That's
I'm
right.
going to change. I'm going to do
Yep.
something about it.
Never, don't say sorry no more. I'm tired of your sorries.
Yes,
Do something about it. I'm going to do better.
exactly.
That's what I want to hear. I'm going to do better.
Exactly.
That's important. So the roles that the support systems that we put in place, they don't make us feel alone. They make us feel part of a part of a bigger cause. It makes us part of something that's healthy. And that's where we get our healthy relationships from. We learn how to be healthy friends. How can we say we're going to marry somebody who's going to be my best friend? We don't even know how to be a friend.
Exactly. That's good.
We gotta know how to be a friend.
Right.
And we gotta be able to, when you talk about companion, what does a companion do? Hey, you don't feel like going out today. I do. I'm not going to leave you alone every night, but I am going to coax you a couple of nights to go with me. So it's companionism is being concerned about the other person. Sometimes,
And
having that.
oops, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I found out in the last year or two in my transformation, my need for the friends that I've had has changed.
Me
I
too.
don't have so much in common with them anymore because of my transformation and my growth.
Mhm.
And I find myself opening up less to them because not because I don't trust them, it's because of what's inside of them. They, the iron sharpeneth iron, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you do not have the right words to say to me, to help me through this, to counsel me, then I can't speak to you. And the majority of the people who are in my life, I had to kind of like take a step back,
Right, exactly.
slowly cut them off, remove them, because you also going in through your transformation, you also see who people are, right? And that there are people in our lives who are there for a season, for a reason, and their season and reason is done, it's finished. Now it's time for you to move on.
That's
So
right.
I have two people in my life now, my prayer partner and a friend of mine. I've been friends with her for a long time. And sometimes when I want to vent, when I want to cry, that's them. I find that a lot of the women in my life, they're quick to call me, to vent, for me to listen, for them to cry to me.
Girl, don't you know that's right?
Me to
Yeah.
talk and for me to da and be there for them and listen to them. But I can't, I'm to a place when I've been this for a while where I go on my knees because that's the best place for me. And sometimes when I pick up the phone to call a friend, they don't answer. They don't, and you ring the phone all day long, you're texting, you can't get so when then God is like, no, talk to me. I want to hear from you. So that's where I go. The majority, that's my support. The majority of the time, that's who I go to. He's my support because I could not be the person, the woman that I am now to myself and to others if it weren't for him. Showing even me my ugliness, my ugly ways, my flaws, where you need to improve, why you need to improve, how you need to navigate this, how you need to, and it's not even about people, it's Aretha. And I notice in my change, they've changed toward me, not in a bad way, but my change has changed them, right? they react differently. Their approach is differently because they're expecting you to react the same way that you've always reacted, but it's no longer like that. So when you react in a calm manner, a mature manner that they're not expecting, it's a complete different outcome. And I had to learn that the hard way. It was not easy. I had to learn that the hard way, because God said, you need to change. Stop focusing so much on that person changing, but you focus on your change. You, Aretha, it's about you, because you are the transformer. You are the one who transforms. You are the one who you are the game changer. In other words, you are the one who bring the change. So when you change, that person will change. And Lord, that's exactly what happened. But it wasn't.
Yes.
You had to take a lot of hitting down. I took a lot of hits and a lot of hits and a lot of hits. And every time I got hit and I got back up, there was a lesson there. So I was like, all right, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. So I started changing.
That's wonderful. Salt. That's that seasoning. When you start to change your environment, seriously, just your presence, just the way you react, the way you respond,
right?
Enables others to change their temperament.
Right.
Yeah, it's contagious. It's contagious.
Exactly.
Well, I know we can delve into this all night because this is a great topic. But I want to thank you all. We've come to the end part of the show, and I really want to thank you all for being here. You made this wholesome. You made it really touching and important to those that are the viewers that are going to be watching. So if there's nothing else that anyone wants to say, I'm leaving it floor open a couple minutes. If anyone wants to say anything, final remarks.
Well, I encourage you to connect with me. My digital card is in the corner. meetdrpaula.com. meetdrpaula.com, and you can learn about my books, my website, the relationship things that we do, the relationship coaching, all of that. So connect with me. I'd love to hear.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, so all of us are
I appreciate
all of us are Googleable.
To some extent. I think this was very lovely. Thank you. And I think in my closing remarks, I'd like to say, I've been very blessed my life. I've been very selective with my friends. And luckily enough, there's so many of them that grew with me from 15 from when I was 9 until now. And they're in my life. They're my chosen family. And, sometimes you never get the family that you want. You recreate the family that you want. And people become a better family to you than your own family. And sometimes cutting out the toxic family members that you actually have will lead you to a more fuller person. It'll allow you to shed the old you and become that person that you truly want to be. And you don't have to shed them in anger or hatred or anything. You just shed them in love. We shared our season because family comes in seasons too. And I think a lot of people find that hard to embrace, that families come for seasons as well. No matter how close a proximity that you are, you cannot grow into a different tree if you're holding on to that other tree. You gotta fall off sometimes and grow into your own thing. And
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edna. Thank you so much for this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
This opportunity. I really appreciate you. And you're doing
a
great job.
All.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you, Aretha.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Paul.
Nice to meet you all.
Yes.
Thank you all. And we're acting like the Waltons now. Good night. Good night.
Good night, John Paul.
Well, love you all and hope to see you all next time.
All right.
Yeah, right, exactly. I hope to see you all on the next one. Thanks so much, and you have a wonderful night. Bye now.
You too. Good night.
Bye,
ladies.
Bye.